Hey folks, SMK Gaming here. Classes are coming back to Battlefield. DICE have decided to try and implement the class system using the current specialists. DICE gave us an idea of how they plan to try and implement this with various images. We think such a change would have the community overjoyed. That isn't the case. The reveal of the class system started a big debate on many fronts. Firstly, some players have seen it as no change whatsoever. It was still the specialist system, but under class categories. Then everyone has had a differing opinion on how DICE have classified certain specialists. For example, some thought Peck should be assault rather than recon, as her EMGX scanner is used to identify enemies in close quarter combat. Others felt Mackay is more of a recon instead of an assault due to his ability to grapple hook around the map and effectively recon and scout the area ahead. Not one person would have all specialists categorised under the same classes as another person. The issue here is that for every single specialist, you could argue a point for them fitting into any of the 4 available classes. Why is that? How players play a particular specialist influences their perception of what class they should be in. A player that typically goes into and around a capture area and sits in a corner with Peck will see her as a recon, whereas an aggressive Peck player will see her as an assault player. You could play each specialist in so many different ways. Each one could fit into an assault, engineer, support or recon type role. The problem DICE are going to have here are the specialists themselves. They've built the entire world around them. They are trying to fit predetermined traits and specialties of a particular character into class roles where that wasn't the case in past games. It will not work. Their specialty may be suited towards an assault type role, whereas their trait may not fit into the assault role at all. It may be more of an engineer or support type trait. In previous Battlefield games, let's use Battlefield 5 as an example, if you pick support, you could choose from a number of combat roles, for example, engineer or machine gunner, both of which offer 2 further traits within each combat role. It was the same with Battlefield 1, except they were more universal traits. From a pool of approximately 10 or so, you could choose 3 different traits, which could be the same 3 you chose for all 4 of your class setups. The key here in these games were you were not locked into certain perks and traits of a particular character within a class system. DICE are doing things the wrong way around, and that is why I have major doubts on how they intend to implement this class system within the specialists. In its current format, I don't think it's worthwhile doing it. I don't think it's going to make any difference, and I am clearly not alone in thinking this. DICE must put the emphasis on the class, not the specialist, otherwise nothing really changes. I have what I feel is a better system for it that allows for major growth and more content for players. To properly implement this, and what would actually make it easier on DICE, is if they were to take each specialist trait and specialty, detach and remove it from each specialist and put them all into 2 pools. 1 pool for traits, 1 pool for specialties. Then assign these as options to a particular class type. They are no longer linked to a particular specialist per se. For example, Mackay has a nimble perk and grapple hook specialty. Nimble could now be an option as a trait for assault, whereas the grapple hook is assigned to recon. Let's now take something a little bit more complicated. Bor's specialty, the sentry gun, and the trait sentry operator that spots targets when the gun locks onto them. These seemingly would have to go together. Well, you could simply just combine them as part of a specialty where you have the gun and the spotting together, or change Boris's trait to a generic one that spots players when you shoot and hit them, and that is then assigned to the recon class as a trait option, while the sentry gun is assigned to the engineer class. Once DICE has decided what class they want to assign each specialty and trait to, we can have something that looks like this. If you choose to play assault, you have the option of these 2 specialties and 3 traits. You pick one of each, so you could pair the EMGX scanner with the nimble trait. Moving over to the engineer, you can decide to be the type of player that wants to take out tanks and choppers, and you can go with either the guided missile or the smart explosives, paired with the armor hunter trait. That isn't your thing? You can instead choose to be more of a passive engineer player with the sentry gun or the stationary minigun paired with the cache point. I really do feel this is the best way for DICE to do this, but will they? Very unlikely. The whole world has been built around the specialist, their character. They've been given backstory and lore around each one of them. If what I suggest is to be followed through on, it means specialists effectively become empty shells, skins to choose for your character like in any other of the past Battlefield games. They will feel they've invested too much time and money to build up these specialists. Well, if any DICE developer is watching right now, here's how to work around all of this. What I suggest DICE do to help combat this: what do you choose as your specialist equipment from the options available within a class? The appearance of that soldier is the appearance of the one who previously had that equipment assigned to them. So if you choose Peck's EMGX scanner specialty, but Mackay's nimble trait. Your soldier's appearance will be as pick. If you choose the shield specialty, which was previously linked with Dozer, but the trait trauma specialist, which was previously linked with Angel, you will appear as Dozer. Now you may be thinking here, but you're just relinking the specialty back to the specialist. No, I am not. I'm linking that soldier's appearance to it. The class system is built from the ground up with the specialties and traits first, instead of the specialist shoehorned into them. In doing things this way, DICE can still introduce more and more specialists to the game, as it's only really their specialty that defines them and their appearance. They can still have a backstory and lore around them. What's more, they can introduce new traits to the game with each update or season without needing to introduce a specialist. That is what is holding the game back. They can't introduce more things because they need new specialists there to introduce new traits. They could easily build up the pool of traits for players to choose from. They can make them so that they have to be unlocked by completing challenges. For example, in Season 2 they could bring a new trait called Bleed Out for the support class. This means that when a player shoots at an enemy, a bleed out would start where they lose 5 points of health over a few seconds if they don't get heals. This means that if a player only has 5 health remaining when you lose sight of them, they are dead if they can't get heals. This is only an example though folks, I'm not suggesting this for the game. By putting these new traits behind assignments, it gives players challenges to achieve. For example, one assignment for unlocking the bleed out trait could be survive a near-death encounter 50 times. Here a player would need to survive being below 10% health and make it back to full health on 50 occasions. It kind of works in with the trait you're trying to unlock. In addition to all of this, ideally weapons would be locked to certain class types also. So for example, the assault class would have assault rifles locked to them, the engineers DMRs, the support class LMGs, the recons sniper rifles, and then maybe SMGs are open to all classes. However, there is nowhere near enough weapons in this game to effectively do this. They would need to bring weapons across from Portal to effectively do this and give players enough variation within the game. Now apparently they are looking into doing this in Season 2, and if they do and enough weapons come across from Portal, well then I really think they should look at doing this also. In finishing, by changing the class system to something like this opens up far more possibilities for players, and even for DICE themselves. The specialists can keep their importance within the game and world DICE has created. They can still continue to introduce more specialists with their unique specialty. However, they are not limiting the introduction of traits to moments where we get new specialists, as they are now detached from them with a proper class system. Like, what's not to like about this folks? Proper classes, specialists still in the game, new and more frequent unlockable content for players. Win for DICE and win for players. Surely it is. Well folks, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Let me know all your thoughts and ideas in the comment section below that you have on how they can implement this class system. Whether you think my ideas are good, whether they're bad, what you would change. Thank you for watching folks. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. And once again, thank you for that 10k subs. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much folks.